Are we live? Let's do it. Welcome to DungeonCore20, tabletop role-playing game designed to provide hobbyists with the core framework of mechanics that are used for any setting or theme. We'll talk a little bit more about it soon, but our goal here with DungeonCore20 is to create a system that is easy to learn and teach, with a focus on collaborative gameplay and introducing player agency for character builds and progression. I am the creator. I go by Dragon on our Discord. And yeah, we'll see how this goes. It's going to be our first kind of casual setup slash talk stream, dev talk, roadside chat, whatever you want to call it. But let's go ahead and switch over to where we're going to be working today. There it is. And if we need it, probably a good idea to have it as an option. We'll have our companion app that we can pull in. We'll use it for reference. The companion app is really the best place. If you want to get started with DungeonCore20, check out the companion app. This is where you can find our rules, how to create characters. You can find different features that are used for your characters, or perhaps even flavored for things such as magical items, or depending on the setting of the system, or not the system, the setting of the adventure, the world building. That's the word I'm looking for. Then certain features, such as arcane features, might actually be, say, reflavored to be more mechanical, as in like robots and such. Or maybe it's more steampunk, right? And these are certain types of special gadgets. So we'll talk about that as we get into what we're going to be working on today. And as part of working on some ideas for creating a new kind of adventure that I'll be running, we're also going to talk about the mechanics of DungeonCore20. We're going to create several characters today, and depending on what we come up with, we might even create a couple items. So really, again, the main goal here is that we're going to talk about DungeonCore20. We're going to use it, right? Go through kind of our process and our thinking of the mechanics. And if there's questions, drop a comment. Let us know what you think. Join our Discord. That's definitely going to be the best place to get the latest of what DungeonCore is doing, as well as learning a little bit more about, well, how you can find players to enjoy games, as well as ask questions more directly. And we even have a section of our Discord where you can create a character using kind of a text-based template and try sharing some ideas on how you're going to build that character, what features they took. So I know I'm talking a lot about mechanics that perhaps if you're new to the DungeonCore20 system, you might not know about. So let's actually just get right into how I see DungeonCore20 and how I use DungeonCore20 and see what we build. So we have our little chat log here. We're not going to really look at that too much until we start testing some roles. But we're in Foundry. Foundry is the system that I use for running games, and I think Foundry is a really amazing kind of a one-time purchase environment, and there's so much depth with it. I love the modular nature of it, with how we can do add-ons, and people can kind of contribute to the tabletop role playing and add little mods. Basically, mods is what it is. It's a mod based platform, a virtual tabletop. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it a lot. So we've created a few templates in order to play using DungeonCore20 in Foundry. Now, the underlying system that we use in Foundry is called Custom System Builder. I'm no developer, so I had to work with what I could understand. So we have the ability, however, and we released it recently. So it's available through our Discord. You can find the link to the files, set it up, give it a try, and we created a video on it as well. So you might want to check that out. If I go through character creation a little too quickly for you, then there is another video talking about character creation, going through it step by step, following our companion app guide. So actually, speaking of which, as much as our companion app, right, think of it as a kind of pocket booklet of sorts that you could access on mobile or browser. We could also go to players, and here's where we have our step-by-step how to create a character guide. So we have stats, we have races. So stats, let's actually touch on them real briefly, right? So stats in DungeonCore20 is actually all handled by dice. So we use the D4, D6, D8, D10, and D12 in order to represent the 6 stats of vitality, body, mind, skill, arcane, and speed. And each of those stats are actually quite important. I find that the only time that you might consider, well, should we go over it? So vitality, right? Vitality is kind of the overall character's life force. It directly affects the character's hit points, which is their health, right? You drop to 0, you might be dead. We'll see what happens. But vitality dice also provide vigor. And vigor is, I guess in other systems, you can consider them, gosh, what did they call them again? I've been so focused on Dungeon Core 20, I've already forgotten the other systems and what they called them. But in D&D, being that it's the big granddaddy of TTRPGs, I believe they called theirs hit dice, right? So it's something kind of equivalent to that, but Vigor dice is also used as a resource for a couple of features, right? So you might have features that draw on this in order to kind of have this, you draw on your life force to do some extra effect. But we also have a mechanic called the death timer, which is basically a second health bar when you get dropped to 0. I always like the idea that a character, when they get dropped to 0, they can still do stuff. I don't like the systems, especially in like video games. Imagine a video game where you're in a party and if you die, quote unquote, you're just gone. You're out of the game. You can't even spectate. You can't really even do anything to affect the outcome of what might happen. So a mechanic that I've played in a lot of homebrew settings is introducing like a death's door type mechanic. So what the death timer represents is, hey, I go down, I have now a countdown in minutes, which doesn't really take effect in combat, but within combat where you're more likely to go down, your death timer represents, again, that second health bar. So it's creates that little bit of tension where it's like, hey, you hit 0, you might be at, the risk of death. And once combat is resolved, that risk does not just disappear. So you got to use either items or features for healing to try to keep that character alive until you can rest and remove that condition. So I'm excited to see how death timer plays out. But vitality, again, really, directly just tied to kind of the life of a character. Body and mind are kind of the two sides of the coin, body representing physical, mind representing more mental. So body is used for a lot of those physical challenges that you'll find that you might need to overcome, as well as being able to defend, or if you're doing physical type, tackles and such, then body comes into play. Mind, on the other hand, is used more for kind of mental acuity, right? Intelligence, insight, also sensory. So we don't have, say, abilities or skills or whatever it might be called. Players have to get features to say what they're good at, right? So there's a sense of progression that we're trying to introduce with Dungeon Core 20. So something like perception, yeah, you could generally do it with mind, right? It's your ability to see something, understand it, process that information, and come to a conclusion. But also from the social side of things, being able to identify, the person's maybe expressions and whatnot, right? So it ties into kind of, again, being able to use your senses in a mental capacity to come to some result. And then we have skill. Skill is the best word that I can use to describe skill is finesse. And I thought I reordered some of these, but yeah, physical and social finesse. So being able to, if you say swing a weapon, being able to control that. If you're maybe using speech, it'll be the ability to kind of process your words in a way where it's going to have some sort of implied effect or incentivized effect. So things like persuasion and deceit tie into it as well. Arcane is our very flexible stat where traditionally, right, in TTRPGs, high fantasy, you might see this more along the lines of, say, like magic and spellcasting. But when it comes to games where you are, say, going with like superheroes, maybe it represents some form of like superpower, like innate superpower that you're drawing from, like a energy source. Or if you're using it for maybe steampunk or more high-tech sci-fi type settings, it might be representing more like a supply of energy. So steam power or magical power, or what's the other word? like battery power, right? So Arcane is very interesting in that regard, where we're trying to keep Dungeon Core 20, at least the core of it, the foundation of it, to be themeless. And it's really up to the dungeon manager to decide what kind of world am I introducing to the players. So we don't want to inhibit that. I actually wish to promote more of that type of homebrew environment, because my experience with TTRPGs at least have been nearly all homebrew, whether I was a player when I was getting started or when I switched over to running games. Definitely it was always drawn from an idea of a world setting that I wanted to introduce, or that the dungeon managers or equivalent wanted to introduce to their players. So I really want to tap into that, and I want to create a fundamental system that allows for flexibility in how you can basically run whatever type of game that you want using a single system rather than jumping through different systems to accomplish the same goal. So Arcane is one of the kind of tenets of that we refer to as Arcana as a whole. And Arcane in general kind of just means, the unknown. So I think it's a very fitting word for what we're trying to accomplish. But Arcane does also affect, right, anything arcane. Swap the word arcane out for whatever's relevant, but essentially, right, if you're doing an ability or a feature that taps into the arcane stat, it affects the accuracy and power of it, potentially, as well as the resource that it draws from, which standard in Dungeon Core 20 is referred to as mana points. So again, that could be renamed. It's really up to you on how you want to handle the stat. And then lastly, we have speed, which is less so a direct tie to movement. Movement is involved in speed, but it's a metric of your maneuverability, I think is the better word for it, right? It's maneuverability ties to not only movement, but your ability to perhaps dodge or perform stealthy maneuvers, for example. So speed is the stat that generally will relate to that. So when we're creating characters, right, stats are very flexible. They all have some degree of importance. And regarding levels, characters will level from 1 to 20. Level 1 is actually level 1. It's tutorial. Think more in terms of video games where you find yourself on a beach, or your town just burnt down and you're setting out for the first time. Some other characters that are perhaps, starting off more experienced, maybe you guys start at level 3. And other environments where maybe you've been around the block, you have your stripes. Maybe the game starts at level 5, right? But we talked about, again, the character creation process more so in our other video. So go check that out if you're interested in making your own character. And I think that's actually where we're going to start. Oh, actually, no, we're not even going to get into stats when we start building our characters, because what I really want to focus on is actually the races and features. So Dungeon Core 20 is also a system where we have no races. Well, we have races, we have categories, but there's no set of pre-built features. And I think that's also very interesting, because I find in a lot of other systems, they predefine what a race should be. And sure, in homebrew situations, it's not too difficult to go in and kind of swap it out. But because it already exists, it's sometimes deters someone from being able to do that. So what I wanted to introduce is a system where races are really just kind of categorization. So we have kind of your trifecta adventuring trio, right, between human, dwarf, and elf, whether that's fantasy or sci-fi. You could have space dwarves, you could have space elves. And I think dwarf kind of represents your more shorter and stouter, hardier kind of folk, whereas human is your more typical average humanoid, and elf is more your, well, elves are elves. They're strange. So we have those three as a general kind of starting category that I think people will be familiar with and are also very suitable for a lot of different settings. And then our other three races are just categorized into beast, monster, and mixed race. Mixed race is simple in that you just combine two other races, and you have a standard distribution of racial and character points, whereas beast and monster are much more general categories, and it's really on the player to decide, what kind of beast do you want to make? What kind of monster do you want to make? Or if it's a hybrid, right? Like it's I have some examples here at the bottom. So for example, a werewolf would be perhaps a combination of beast and human, right? And we'll get into the racial points and how to spend racial points when I get to making characters, because we're going to be doing some of that. And then features, obviously, right, are going to be the main, what do I want to call it, building blocks of Dungeon Core 20. We have at the moment, I think in pre-alpha and alpha 1, we had about 40 features we were using to kind of build the foundation of the system. And at the moment, we have nearly 200. Probably by the time we leave alpha, we'll have more than 200. So features in general, we do have to take some time to revisit them and word them for a bit more consistency. Some of the descriptions I found from playtesters are not as intuitive as I had hoped. So we'll be making another pass at feature descriptions. But the idea with features is that characters can build the way they want, or players can build characters the way they want, using kind of this modular feature system. So because we have no classes, this is also interesting because the types of features that you focus on and gain, and especially archetypes, which we'll get to when we start building, really is what defines the type of character you are. So if you want to go and follow your typical kind of, say, ranger trope, you might take some melee, range, tracking, terrain-related features to build the type of character that you want. So I personally really like this system. It's been a lot of fun, not only building my own kind of test characters and NPCs, but it's been super fun watching the playtesters build out their characters. And maybe initially they have no idea what they're going to build, what they're going to play, but by going through these simple steps of like, okay, well, let's first pick the race, right? Or at least the category of your race, and then determine what kind of features you want for that race. All right, you just built a race. Maybe it falls in line with your traditional elf or dwarf or what's the word? Half human, half human something, right? But it's been a lot of fun seeing. I've had players who have created a literal slime. I've had a squirrel that uses a slingshot to shoot nuts at people. I think he called it the Nut Buster, which was great. I had someone be real creative, and actually, well, two people be real creative. I had one make what did they use? I want to say it was like one of the features called mutation, and they created a symbiote. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Venom from Spider-Man, where there was this mutation on her that was just constantly like talking, and they flavored it that way, and it was kind of cute. But we also had another where it was a companion. So there's a companion feature, but their character was a huge sized monster, a monster in the form of a robot. So it was a big robot with AI, and the companion was actually a little girl that it was like protecting, which was, again, just wild ideas. But it's something that I just don't really find easy to do in a lot of the existing systems. And Dungeon Core 20 so far has really let players just kind of go wild with some ideas that they have for types of characters they want to play. So let's get into it. Let's make some characters and see how things go. So one of the main goals that I have here is I want to touch on the different races. So let's actually create a temporary kind of name for each of these. So in our system, we got to hit that little refresh button to first populate the page, but let's do one for a human. And if anybody happens to be tuning in live, you could obviously put a recommendation in the chat and maybe we'll give that a try. If you missed us, then leave a comment. Maybe we'll do another one of these, talk about kind of your ideas and see how we would interpret it into Dungeon Core 20. So we're going to do a human. Wrong button. We're going to do a dwarf. We're going to do an elf. We're going to do let's also do well, I guess we'll just put the names, and I'm trying to think if I wanted to specify what kind of beast I wanted to create. And we'll do a monster. And should we do a mixed race? Why not? Why not? We'll do a mixed. All right, so we're going to create at least 6 characters. And actually, let me move Victor here for now, just so we have it out of the way. He was created in one of our previous videos. All right, so we'll close those. We'll start with human. So human is our default race, and they get 2 racial points. So humans are pretty simple, right? There's not a whole lot going on with them. So let's actually pull up our companion app here and start looking at features, racial features. All right, so there's 2 ways, right, we can handle character creation in an adventure. So the player, obviously, with the DungeonCore20 system, just has full freedom to create whatever they want. But it is also a possibility, if you are a dungeon manager, game master, and want to, say, define the races, it wouldn't be difficult to go in and say, hey, these are the features that these races have. If you want to change any of them, then obviously between the dungeon manager and the player, you guys can make some exceptions. Humans aren't going to have a whole lot of, well, they have enough options. But I know that there is one that they can get that only a few of them can get, which is potential. So human, dwarf, and elf can get potential, which as a reaction, when you roll a natural 1 on a challenge, re-roll the d20 and add an arcane roll to the new result. So it's kind of like a reaction-based lucky. I think it was called lucky in one of the other big TTRPGs. And potential comes back after a rest or rolling another natural 20. So potential might be a good one to take, just because it's one that I think will get taken fairly frequently on humans, depending on your play style there and if it sounds like a fun one to take. But humans only have 2 racial points, right? Humans are leaning more towards character points for character creation. So what else could we do? Now, we will have to pay attention. So things like additional arms would require you to be either a beast or a monster, right? And mixed races could also tie into that as well. But where do we start with humans? I'm not going to go with the keen stuff. So yeah, so some of these are any race. I think for humans, we'll take potential, just because it is one that they can take. And it's whenever I think of a human, that's what comes to my mind, at least. I believe in our potential, guys. So we'll add that to our character page. And I'm using Roll20 also just to help visualize and help track what I'm creating here. What I might do is perhaps after we are done recording today, go over to our Discord and actually create some NPCs there based on what we end up designing. So yeah, human, we'll give them potential, and then we'll also give them, we'll say humans are going to stay at the standard size of medium, but perhaps, strong heart would be good. But I think strong heart would be more on the player to decide. Do you want them to be a little bit more healthy? Regeneration's a fun one too. After you receive damage, you could spend vigor to immediately get some health points back. Nocturnal sight lets kind of your eyes adjust to the dark or dim conditions. That's another potential that might be good. Nimble might be, I'm really looking for like a general category here. Something generic that we can do for some NPCs. For a human, humans typically reside in very specific kind of environments, right? So maybe natural terrain would be a good option. If I was a player, though, I'd probably go for one of these natural stat abilities. So like natural agility. So depending on like what kind of human I want to make, do I want him to be more speedy? Do I want him to be more skillful, right? These natural agility, arcana, finesse, those are also really good options. Was instinct? No, instinct was just for beast and monster. Yeah, see, humans only get 2, so I can't really take them all, and some of them are really specific to kind of the type of character. So you know what? Maybe for human, we'll leave it at potential for now. And once we decide what kind of human, what kind of class essentially we want to create using our other features, so archetypes and character and such, maybe we'll revisit this and see what other racial feature might be suitable for what he's trying to build. So let's come back here. We've already dragged potential to our list, and medium is the default size, so we'll leave it there. Oh, and also I actually want to create these at level 3. Again, if you want to see a level 1 character, go check out the other video called Character Creation. Or at least the thumbnail says that. I forget if the title said it. But yeah, we'll leave him like that for now. All right, so we have a kind of an idea for how we want to build our human. For dwarf, let's take a look at dwarf. So again, we want to bump him to level 3 for this video. We're going to make him race dwarf. And the question now is, do I want to leave him as medium or do I want to go with small? So there are racial sizes that are granted through racial features. So all characters will start at medium, but you could say, hey, if I want to go small and make my token small, make my kind of size classification small, I could do that. But I also get to improve a stat, and the trade-off is also then reduce a stat. So if we take this, I think we might, I think we might go with small just to make him like a little short guy. That might be fun. So yeah, let's do that. Let's actually grab racial size small. We'll add that to his list. And regeneration and strong heart would be a good one too. Let's do that. I like those two for the dwarf, kind of the traditional dwarf, right? Kind of hardy, pretty tough, naturally kind of well, I already said hardy, but yeah, naturally hardy. So let's go with those two. I think regeneration, would be good. They have tough skin. They're a bit more resilient to damage. So I think regeneration is a good one, and then strong heart's a good one. So sounds good to me, right? Because dwarf, right, will start with 3 racial points, and they'll have a little bit less. They'll have 1 point less for character points compared to the human. But again, that's kind of the simple lean, right? Do you want to be more humanoid where they lean towards character features, or do you want to be more animalistic or something that is classified as other than human, dwarf, elf, beast, which then just falls under monster. So monster could actually encapsulate things like elementals or automatons, animatronics, whatever, androids, robots, all sorts of crazy things. So it's really your imagination's going to be the limit here. All right, so dwarf was pretty easy. So dwarf was good. And now let's look at elf. I think elf is always a fun, interesting race because there's so many kind of varieties and interpretations. Well, I guess I forgot to drop that. Yeah, but you can see here we added racial size small, regen, and strong. Let's actually also do the thing for small size, right? So, the description's not updated. Oh, that's my mistake. All right, we'll have to make sure to update that in the Foundry. But small, if we pull this back up, small is going to let us improve Mind Skill Arcane. So we get to pick one. I think for this one, small size, which one do we want to increase? I think for small size, we're going to give him skill, right? They're going to be stout, but they're going to be skillful. I think that's appropriate. And then the reduction, we are going to reduce. I guess there's two sides to dwarves, right? I think some RPGs, some adventuring games will classify dwarves as being like magic resistant, but they're also not good at it. Whereas there's others which, you could create like a magic dwarf. But I think for now, I think we will use arcane as our kind of dump for this choice. So coming back to our page, I bumped arcane down to D4 from a D6, and I bumped skill up to a D8 rather than a D6. So being level 3, right, we get plus 3 stat increases at level 1, and then we got 2 more for the extra 2 levels. So we'll come back to the stats later. All right. So back to elves. So with elves, what's interesting, right, is that you could have, say, like a water-based elf, you could have a forest-based elf, you could have mountain elves, you could have pompous high elves, you could have elves under the ground that are like your dark elves. There's so many interpretations for elves, so this one might be a little interesting, but elves get 4 racial points. So I'm going to go ahead and bump his race to elf. And what to do for elves? I think elves in this world, what do I want to do? Let's give them nimble. Nimble would be a good one, right? Nimble is going to let them, as a reaction, when becoming restrained or the target of attack, they can gain advantage to a skill or speed challenge. So I think that's pretty appropriate for elves. And let's also say, oh, natural terrain would be a good one because, again, based on the type of elf that you are, natural terrain is going to let you choose a type of terrain. And as a reaction, you can gain advantage on a body or mind challenge. So, yeah, this elf is going to be giving himself advantage all the time. I think I'm going to avoid these natural skills, though, like strength and intelligence, finesse, just because it's really player dependent. As much as if I was a player, I'd probably take these, like at least one of them on my character. But because we're building, again, these kind of more generic NPC type characters, I might skip that. Ooh, these might be good. Keen hearing, keen sight. So both of these, depending on kind of the usage of them, the condition of sight or hearing, get you advantage on a mind challenge. So, well, yeah, and actually that would be even outside of the terrain from natural terrain that we chose. So that might be a good option. If the elf was magic related, dual affinity might be a good one, which gives them a lot more flexibility and kind of the type of dice they're going to roll and damage they might deal or other effects they might deal. So that might be interesting. Let's see here. What else do we have? Oh, yeah, and also depending on the type of environment they're in, if they're mountain elves, maybe they're natural climbers. Or if they are maybe water focused elves, they could be natural swimmers. But you know what? I think for now, we're just gonna go with keen sight, keen hearing. I think those would be pretty appropriate for elves. So let's look for those. And this is the character creation process, right? We're obviously focusing on each race and kind of defining what kind of a race we want to build using these racial features. But if I was just making one character, right, I'd go from race to then the other feature types. But yeah, we're focusing specifically on race right now. So keen sight and keen hearing. So this elf is going to be able to have sharp senses, and they're going to be very nimble and familiar with their starting terrain environment. So that looks good. I like that. So elf, right? 4 racial points. Oh, tooltips don't show up on the stream. That's a shame. So yeah, if I mouse over elf, it actually tells me a little tooltip, and looks like unfortunately that's not getting captured. I'll have to see if there's a way to fix that maybe for the next one we do. All right, but that takes care of elf. Let's then check out beast. Beast again is going to be more generic in a category term. But what we could do here is say, hey, we want to be a beast, but what kind of beast do we want to make? Let's do what kind of beast? You know what? Let me step away for a moment. I gotta address something. And while we're doing that, when we return, we will choose what kind of beast we'll create. So give me a moment. All right, we are back. Let's go ahead and switch back over here. So Beast, I was thinking about it, and I think what would be a good choice is actually just to go with a creature that for some reason people in the TTRPG sphere seem to enjoy, which is a bear. So we'll just put a note here that it's a bear, and yeah, let's do that. Let's do bear. So features, what can we do for a bear? So bear or a beast is going to get 5 racial points. So instinct I think is a good one that most animals will have. So let's go ahead and come over here to instinct. We'll grab instinct. Instinct is going to let us, as a reaction against a target that is concealed or invisible, gain advantage. So this could be used offensively or defensively, which is nice. So yeah, I think instinct is a pretty good one to have. Keen smell. Keen smell might be a good one, right? We didn't take this on the elf, so maybe let's add it to our bear here. He's going to be able to use his nose. He's going to be able to use his gut, and long stride might be tempting. I don't know how do bears run well or do they get tired? I'm not sure. Ooh, you know what? Bears are good at climbing, right? Let's do natural climbing. They can get up a tree. They can get up stuff. They're not that bad at climbing, if I recall. So natural climbing would be a fun one. And I think bears' natural strength would make a lot of sense, right? Bears are pretty tough. Let's also go with strong heart. They're pretty hardy. They're pretty healthy. So we'll go ahead and add strong heart as well. Ooh, you know what? And let's also make the bear large. Now, unfortunately, that is 6 features. I don't think we're going to be able to take all 6. So the one we'll remove. We already chose strong heart, I think, on the dwarf, right? So let's take that one off. We'll leave that one off for this. So this is what it's going to look like, right? We have our beast who's going to have instinct, keen smell. They're going to have natural climbing and natural strength. So anytime they do something physical, they'll be much better at that. And then we also have racial size large, which, okay, this one has it updated properly. So if we come back to our stats, I guess we'll bump it over here. This is going to be a 2x2 on a grid if you're playing on grid. And then for our stat increase, let's go with Vitality Body Arcane. I'm tempted with Vitality or Body. I think we'll start with Body. Maybe we'll reduce it later. And then reduce Skill, Arcane, or Speed. Oop, that one has a typo. Go ahead and make sure that that's correct over on our companion app as well. Because most of these, I just copied them over when I was creating them. So let's see here. This was, yeah, it's typoed here. All right. Good thing we caught that. So coming back, we have an increase on body, and we're going to decrease. Bears aren't really proficient in being arcane, so we're going to drop beast his arcane. All right. That's just a message because we bumped up our body. There is some calculation that is automated for base stats. And then we have monster. What to do with the monster? So let's first change this to monster. Monster, again, unfortunately, you guys can't see the tooltips, but monsters will have 6 racial points. So they're going to be the most flexible and varied out of all the different races that you could choose from. Now, monsters. Monsters also, along with beast, have pretty much access to almost every feature. Now, I think it'd be really cool actually just to create like a creature that has a bunch of arms. So maybe we'll do additional arms, and maybe we'll leave additional legs on the table. So this will be some kind of multi-armed. You know what I want to do? I want to create like an insect creature. Yeah, let's do that. Let's try creating like some kind of an insect creature. So you know what? I think I am going to add both additional arms and additional legs. So we'll add additional arms. We'll add additional legs. And let's also grab. So yeah, actually, well, I should read it off for those listening in. So additional arms is going to give you 2 additional arms when you acquire this feature. And as a reaction when using arms, you can either gain advantage to a body challenge or gain an additional action. So that's pretty good. You can basically get 2 actions a turn if you have additional arms. 2 arms, 2 actions. Makes sense, right? 2 sets of arms. But you could only do that once per round during your turn because it is an action to. You need to be able to spend your action on your turn. So that's why it's worded that way. And then additional legs is going to give you guessed it, 2 additional legs when you acquire the feature. And as a reaction, when you're using legs, gain advantage to a body challenge or ignore becoming prone. So I guess you get that stability by having those additional legs. So yeah, I think those 2 would be pretty good for like some kind of an insectoid, right? They're going to be a little hard to deal with, to knock them down with their multiple legs, and then they're also going to have multiple arms, which I want to add natural weapon to. So natural weapon is something available to beast and monster, and as an action, perform a weapon attack and gain 1 attribute based on the characteristic used for the attack. So in our case, I think I'm going to probably lean into the claws, like scythes or something, or maybe even a tail that could swipe or sting or something. We'll see. But natural weapon, I think, is a good choice for our monster that we're creating here. So natural weapon, let's go ahead and add that one. And we have 3 more that we can do. You know what? Nocturnal sight, we didn't take that on the bear. I don't even know. Are bears nocturnal? No, they're active more during the day, if I remember. But I think nocturnal sight for the beast would be good. That seems pretty decent. I also want to go with large again. I think a large insect charging at you is kind of scary. So let's do that. And then for our final one, yeah, racial size we picked on the beast, our bear. So I think we're not going to do that one. Read it out again. But what else? Oh, natural armor would be good. So natural armor is going to give us the ability, like, right, we're going to be an insect. Let's have armor. So as a reaction, when receiving damage, your minimum armor cannot fall below 2. You know, I should give this the ability to also make a guard as part of using it. Because, yeah, your armor score. Well, no, this would be beneficial if you were maybe going up against someone who had like penetrating weapons. So armor score in Dungeon Core 20 is actually handled in an interesting kind of mechanical way where you have a flat value for armor score that always reduces a certain amount of damage. So heavy armor has 3, and in at the beginning of Alpha 2, light armor had 1, medium armor had 2, but we've since reduced it so that light armor is 0, medium armor is 1, heavy armor is 3. And then as you get better armor, so armor has quality, or equipment in general has quality, but as that increases, which goes up to a potential of 5, most armor, most weapons, most equipment, players will have the ability to upgrade them. So you can upgrade the quality, get some attributes, and you can get it to +3, but +5 would be like an artifact. So natural armor would be helpful in the sense that, hey, if someone penetrates my armor, I could prevent the minimum from falling below 2. So I can always kind of guarantee a defense of 2 in a sense. So yeah, I think natural armor would be a good one to take for this kind of insect monster that we're creating. So let's go ahead and add those. We've done that. And for the monster, let's actually we'll just say, make a note here that it's a insectoid. All right, cool. So that's kind of, again, the process. So I guess we have one more we got to make, right? We got to do the mixed race. So what to do for the mixed? I was thinking about this when I stepped away earlier, and I think what we have to do is a human/beast. I'm going to put this over here because I have a little bit more room, and we'll call it, we'll make the cat girl that we have on our examples, right? So under races, and we have some examples towards the bottom here, but one of them, just for fun, I put cat girl. I thought that was funny. A lot of people who see that got a chuckle out of it. So let's do that. Let's make a cat girl mixed race. It's a human/beast. So we're going to have 4 racial points to spend. And yeah, what to take? Obviously, we obviously have to have keen hearing, right? So I think keen hearing is going to be one. Instinct is a potential. And see, this is the benefit of mixed races. Humans can't take instinct, but because I'm half human, half beast, I have access now to instinct, which has a beast or monster requirement. So we're going to go ahead and find those two, because those, again, seem like good choices for the beast half. And actually, you know what? As a mix, let's also take, where was it? Potential. And as a cat, you know, we're going to go nocturnal sight. We'll stay the same medium size. Ooh, natural agility is super tempting. Hold on, we'll add it for now. So natural agility is going to allow us, and a lot of these kind of stat-based features, the natural stat-based features, are going to be adding a extra die of your stat to any of that challenge type. So if I'm making a speed challenge and I have natural agility, I could choose to add an extra speed roll to the challenge. So these are actually quite good, in my opinion. Part of me wonders if it's maybe a little overpowered. We do have it set up right now where you can use it once per challenge, so it lasts for like the duration of the challenge. So if you know, had to dodge 5 times in a round, this could be a little good, a little strong. But yeah, so what was the other one I said? Natural keen hearing. That's the one. I keep trying to drag it from the app rather than in Foundry. So keen hearing. So we have one too many. The question is, which one are we dropping? Instinct could be useful, right? Is a cat girl pretty skittish? Do they have instinct? I'm not even sure. They could probably hear. Nocturnal sight's just good. Potential would be a fun one just to take, but I'm thinking, like I said with the other ones, that maybe I won't take natural stats because those are really more player dependent, and I'm not looking to create one that is behaving like a player. Oops, wrong button. That's a little loud, isn't it? So let's actually go over to category view where I can actually remove them. Natural agility. So yeah, I think this is a good baseline for us. We'll have instinct. Potential, I think some people would probably, maybe swap that one out. Nocturnal sight's just decent. It's good. It's useful. And then keen hearing would be another good option here. So cool. We now have our 6 races and we've set up racial features. So what we could do next is start looking at our other features. Now this is where we start getting into kind of the class discussion, because DungeonCore20 has no classes. The way a class is defined is through a combination of your archetype features, which is really kind of we've tried to set it up where archetypes are like your monumental play style type abilities, where they have a pretty significant effect on how you play, right? It really kind of defines the type of character that you're building. Whereas other features, such as character features, would define more what your character can do. Arcane features would tie to how your character draws from the arcane, whether, again, that's flavored for sci-fi or steampunk or superpowers, doesn't really matter. By default, we obviously would probably go with like a magic type system. Profession features are like what you would do during downtime, right? The type of job your character have. Most profession features are tied to or at least have a connection to a toolkit, right? So like if you are a alchemist, you would have use for, say, like an alchemy kit, right? If you are what's another one I have? I think I called it a metalsmith. So if you're a metalsmith, right, your smithing tools or metalworking tools would be appropriate for that profession. So again, profession features are usually tied to some kind of toolkit that they can get some added benefit and downtime activity with, but also profession features usually tie into the player being able to make some money, whether by selling crafted goods. So professions are going to, in Alpha 2, our professions are pretty basic right now. The concept is there, but we haven't gone into like a lot of depth with the professions themselves yet. But professions are usually, again, going to be tied to not just the toolkit, but also how do they use it, what do they make out of it, or what can they do with it to then try to make some money, right? So when you're doing downtime, there's a clear path for, if I don't have junk to sell, I could at least maybe do an activity to make some money along the way, especially like if I'm short or for role playing or whatever. And then we also have talent features. Talent features are kind of your, I forget what they called them in the other ones, abilities, skills, something like that, proficiencies. So talent features would be things that your character is good at, things that they would be, I guess the good examples would be like your persuasion, right? Anyone could try to persuade, but if you're building your character to persuade, there's a talent feature that will help you do so, right? Really kind of lean in and defining, which is what makes character creation so interesting in Dungeon Core 20, because even if I don't have like a good idea of how I want to theme my character through how I build the character, some kind of an image of what they do, how they behave, how they act, how they handle situations such as combat and role play and narration and conversation and et cetera, really starts to flesh out just by playing, just by adding new abilities that you find interesting or useful or want to build your character with. So I'm pretty happy with how Dungeon Core 20 is shaping up with its building blocks here. So with that said, with the 6 races that we've created, I want to create a flavor of class for each of them, right? So I think an obvious one might be, say, a fighter, right? Now the tough question is going to be, who should we make what? Right? We have human, we have dwarf, we have elf. So I think first off, let's decide what type of class we want to try focusing on. So actually, I'm going to just make that note here in the chat at the bottom here. So we definitely want to have like a fighter. We want to have maybe someone who, I guess a rogue. Rogue would be good, right? Rogue, do we want to call it rogue? We have a fighter. So I want a fighter to be like a melee dude, maybe like a sword and shield. Let's also we'll make a mage. We'll go with like kind of video game classes, right? What did Final Fantasy 1 use? It was, I think you had fighter, mage. Was it priest? What did they call the healer? Acolyte? I don't even know. But we'll call it healer. So we got our trifecta in a way of magic damage, magic support. We have physical damage, and then we need ranged. I need ranged. Do we do ranger? I think maybe ranger, archer, sniper. What should we do here? Let's go with we'll go with ranger. We'll use ranger as our kind of ranged character, right? I mean, he has range in the name. It works. Let's see. We need two more to fit. We got the healer class. We got the melee ranged weapon class. We got the magic damage class. We need the sneaky class. Do we want to add rogue? I don't really want to call it rogue. Do we call it thief? Let's go with thief. I think thief would be a good one. Thief would be a good one. Ooh. And then the last one, what's another pretty traditional kind of class type or archetype for a class? Let's just go with tank. We'll just go with tank. People know what that is, right? You know what a tank is. So Dungeon Core 20, right? I really tried to build Dungeon Core 20 to have different roles that could be filled out. I don't find every system out there to do a good job at this. I don't know if we have. You guys will have to let us know if we're looking in the right direction. But the ability to play as a tank and like actually draw the focus of enemies and feel like you could actually take a hit and not be a detriment to the party, I think is missing in a lot of games that I've played for a few handful of common systems, but also a couple of, I guess you'd call them like homebrews. I feel like a lot of homebrews also fall under the trap of being like extensions of the popular systems. And actually, when I did the pre-alpha of Dungeon Core 20, one of the playtesters actually gave me some what I think is a very good piece of feedback that really shaped what Dungeon Core has become, which is they told me that, hey, your system, I like it a lot, it's fun, but it feels like a D&D module. Like it was like a homebrew module. And that is definitely not what I was looking to create, right? I was frustrated with what was going on with Wizards of the Coast and D&D. So I decided to try to make Dungeon Core 20 be its own unique environment with its own, it draws from maybe some common TTRPG mechanics, but yeah, with the feature system, that was definitely kind of part of the core of what we wanted to build, this kind of modular. You could either build it as you go, or you could enjoy the what features do I need to get to what I want to create. So I think our current iteration is definitely capturing the vibe of, hey, this is a different system. It's its own thing. It's doing its own thing. But you let us know. I'd love to hear your feedback on, does it work as intuitively as we intend it to be, or are there some gaps? And again, one of the gaps that we know of is the current phrasing or wording of some things. Turns out it's not quite as clear in our intention for each feature. So that is one area of focus that we'll be looking at as we move into, as much as I wanted to move into beta after this playtest, we have discovered that there are still some areas, right? Like, again, feature descriptions, as well as a couple other points that we'll maybe talk about another time. So likely we'll do like an alpha 3, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll just cram all the changes into alpha 2 and then push it out. All right. So we have our 6 classes that we want to try to build out. Now the question is, who's going to be who? Now the thief, I think the thief is going to be the cat girl. I don't know. It just feels right. So we'll do why is this one set there? This one's mixed. And we'll call this one thief. Yeah, so we'll have a mixed thief. How do we want to phrase this? I guess we'll just go cat girl mixed thief. All right, so that'll be one. And then, you know what? I don't need to say mixed in there. We know what it is. We can see it. Let's keep these names as short as possible. The bear. The bear. The bear is going to be our fighter or tank. I think the bear would probably fall under tank, right? Right? The bear is pretty hardy. But you know what? Let's make the bear the fighter. That's a little different. The bear is just gonna go all in. He just wants you to get away from his den. The elf, gosh, as much as the elf being the mage feels pretty common. Let's make the elf the tank. Yeah, let's do that. The elf is the tank. The elf is the tank. I kind of like the idea of like an elf being this kind of slender, old, long-lived creature that just is there to take the blow. The dwarf, we'll make this one the healer. Actually, you know what? I love healers that wear heavy armor. So I think maybe that's what we'll try to do with the dwarf. We'll make it like a heavy tank dwarf healer. The monster's going to have multiple arms, right? It's going to be like an insect. So actually, yeah, let's actually consider that real quick, because maybe what should I do here? Let's make this the mage. Ooh, an insectoid mage. Yeah, that seems interesting. All right, we'll see how that gets built. And then for the human, what does that leave us with? The healer? No, the mage. Human mage? No, insectoid was the mage. What am I missing? We have the fighter. Oh, the ranger. Yeah, I guess we'll put the ranger here. All right, looks good to me. All right, where do we want to start? Human ranger, dwarf healer, elf tank. So we got a bit of a trifecta here. And then we have our cat girl thief, our bear fighter, and our insect mage. Sweet. Yeah, let's go with this. All right, let's start with the Ranger. Ranger will probably be pretty straightforward. Well, we'll see. So the humans are going to get 6 character points when they start. And at level 3, we're going to have 18 character points from levels. So, okay, so we'll have to add the. Actually, did I have the formula for 18, right? Because you get 6 per level up, so that's 12. This one actually accounts for it. See, I might need to change the wording there because let's look at Elf. Elf is going to get 4 character points. Okay, I do have the first level accounted for it, so I wonder if that's going to be confusing to some folks. I'll have to think about that. All right, but the Ranger, let's go ahead and add some character points here. Spend some character points, excuse me. So, character points, right? Once again, well, before we do that, part of the character creation process when we get to features is, aside from spending racial points, we all get 1 free archetype feature. So, you know what? Let's do that for each one real quick. Let's think about what kind of archetype feature is going to really tie into our kind of character build here. So, human ranger. I think for the human ranger, hunter tracker is going to be pretty appropriate. So, as a reaction, you can mark a target or gain advantage to challenge against the marked target. So we can upkeep. So this can actually last multiple rounds by upkeeping it, and it lasts until the mark is lost or we drop it, which I think for a ranger, that's super, super good. I suppose a couple other ones that might be worth considering might be, like, if you want to be more combat focused and be more sha-sha-sha, swift combatant might be good. An attack using a weapon with the light attribute. You can make an attack challenge for each light weapon in a single attack. So you go to make an attack, and if you're holding, say, 2 daggers, you can attack with both in a single attack. You roll a separate challenge for each of them, but that's 2 attacks, right? Tamer might be an interesting one if you want like a companion. I personally am not a fan of rangers just because a lot of the video game kind of tropes tie a companion to the ranger class. But when I think of ranger, I'm always thinking like Lord of the Rings with, what's his name, Aragorn, where it's not really that he has a companion. It's that like he knows how to travel the wilds. He knows how to survive. He knows how to use a bow and use a sword, right? It's kind of super versatile. So a lot of video games actually ruined rangers for me. And actually, speaking of which, one of the big popular TTRPGs out there does the exact same thing where there's a companion just like slapped onto the class. And so we have, again, archetypes that say, hey, any person could take Tamer. It's just the question of, is that the type of character do you want to build, right? So I'm a big fan of that. Ranged combatant would be good if you want to use like ranged weapons and add your skill stat. So you get to have a skill roll to your attack or damage, and you can do that per challenge. So that's super useful. Ranged combatant. Ooh, there's so many. And one of the downsides with archetypes is that you can only have 3 of them. So this is kind of the choice, the decision tree, the opportunity cost of building your character and how their play style is going to get kind of defined by archetypes and other features. Because again, archetypes provide a lot of advantages or strong bonuses, or really affects kind of the instances of what kind of challenges you're performing and how you can affect that. So archetypes are good in that regard. But I think Ranger is probably the one that's most appropriate with Hunter Tracker based on kind of my thinking, at least. So I think that's what we'll do for Ranger. Let's grab Hunter Tracker. Where are you? It's alphabetical. I'm blind. All right. So that's the Ranger. And then for the Elf Tank, ooh, this one I have a pretty good idea for. So there's 2 features for archetypes that I think are super good for tanks. One is Guardian. Guardian, as a reaction, when an adjacent target is attacked, perform a guard challenge on their behalf and become the target. So basically, you can actually be a tank, step in front of an ally, and guard the attack on their behalf, as a tank should.
And then you could also spend move speed. So basically, there's a reposition reaction that you could take in order to move. This one just lets you immediately move as part of using Guardian, as long as you have movement to perform it. Obviously, if you're adjacent to the target, then that's not an issue. So Guardian is one option, but the other that comes to mind is one called Sentinel. Sentinel as a reaction when a target attempts movement within your reach, gain advantage to an attack challenge, or take a guard stance. And then the guard stance allows free reactions and prevents movement through your space, but it lasts until you perform movement or a challenge that is not a guard. So you basically take this kind of sentry posture. So this would be really good for, like, say, NPCs that are guards that are protecting like an entrance or something. So you'd have to figure out how to distract them or get them away, or figure out ways to bypass it. But I think for the tank role, I personally really like Guardian. So I think that's the one we're going to add for our elf. So we have Guardian. Now the dwarf healer. Now the healer, this is a note for anyone wanting to create an arcane character. So one that draws on the arcane, whatever that may be. There are certain features that have the arcane stat associated with. So I'm actually going to filter it by arcane for this instance. And basically, in order to unlock the ability to spend character points on arcane features, we do require an arcane archetype to be selected. So for our elf, or not elf, our dwarf healer, I think we are going to consider. So arcane champion could work as a reaction, spend vigor up to your level and add it to the result of attack, damage, or healing. So you're really drawing on kind of your own powers here. And performing acts of devotion while making an action or reaction may grant advantage. So this is really kind of, I think we're talking about a dungeon manager granting someone who either narratively or in-game performs something that draws upon what they're championing, what they're a champion of, whether that is of another power or maybe of a set of morals, right? So if they strongly believe, they can get advantage potentially. Maybe devotion is the wrong word to use here, but we'll worry about that when we go through our feature pass. Cultivator's a fun one because it basically gives you an opportunity at every rest to get higher points of max mana, but it also lets you double any mana points recovered through features that spend. Oh, actually, it's worded where it's any features. So yeah, you basically double any sort of mana recovery. Which, when you spend vigor, it's not just recovery of health; it's health or mana. So you can actually use it in multiple ways. Arcane upkeep as a healer, as a healer, arcane upkeep might make sense. So certain features have the usage upkeep, which is going to give them the ability to spend, say, mana points one turn and then keep it up and upkeep it every following turn. In situations where something forces it to get dropped, then it's gone. The effect is gone. But this is a way where magic casters, or if it's maybe a gadget that has like a persisting effect, right? As long as the upkeep is met, it keeps going. So that's something kind of unique with the way we handle durations. When I was building Dungeon Core 20, I took a lot of inspiration, not just from existing TTRPGs, but I looked at certain video games that had very kind of fun decision mechanics and whatnot, but also tabletop wargaming had some influence here as well. And the idea of upkeeping certain effects, I think I see more often in some video games do a good job at it, but I think tabletop wargaming kind of handles it in a very particular way, because tabletop wargaming, much like board gaming in general, which I think the TTRPG hobby kind of falls under, does have traditionally kind of a I go, you go system, right? Where we all take turns. But because Dungeon Core is a bit more interactive in that we have a reaction based system, there's a lot of kind of ebb and flow with how not only combat, but even characters performing challenges or interjecting and affecting it or assisting in them, right, can be affected. So upkeep might actually be good for the healer. Chantless is interesting because we don't have to speak, right? So in order to invoke arcane, which is basically just like doing a weapon attack for a weapon, right? Same, just wording. But invoking would require speech normally and a catalyst to channel it. So we have chantless, which is going to let you do so without the speech part, and inner arcana is going to let you do it without the catalyst part. Inner arcana also lets you invoke features at a lower rank and gain an additional die. So if the rank that you're casting at, for example, is your level 3 and we're invoking a feature at rank 2, we get an additional die. So that's pretty helpful. Obviously at higher levels, because arcane features only go up to rank 9, this becomes a non-issue, right? Once you're level 10, because anytime you're level 10, anytime you cast a feature, even at max ranks, it's going to be reduced to, or not reduce, it's going to be below your level. So that's pretty nifty. Packbound, I don't think Packbound is going to be appropriate for our healer here, because this ties you to like a weapon or some kind of a companion that you can take along and you have some kind of bond with it. Although I suppose this could be useful because the equipment that we choose gains the catalyst attribute. So that could be actually super nifty. Plus it also gains its quality based on your level rather than through the equipment. So it actually kind of has a, what's the word for it? It's like in video games where they have a scaling item, right? Where it scales to your level. That's kind of the idea here. So you know what? Now that I think about it, that could be nifty. That could be nifty. Tap affinity, I'm going to skip shapeshift because this is not a shapeshifter. But tap affinity as a reaction during rest, gain additional innate affinity. So this gives us the ability to kind of, based on our either environment or situation or how we choose, we can actually get multiple arcane affinities, which are kind of the overarching categories of arcana that we can tap into. So we have force, we have heat, we have cold, spirit, light, and dark. But as a healer, I don't know if we're going to really tap into anything here. So I think we're going to go with either upkeep or inner. And I'm thinking, because I said I wanted to make him kind of like a tanky healer, right? So he wants to be up in the front. So, but yeah, see, the extra roll for attack damage or healing would be pretty directly helpful. But upkeep would allow us to keep those features going, especially if we get, say, an effect that prevents us from using reactions. So there are certain conditions that might prevent this. We can still upkeep one. So if there's something important that I want to keep going. Ooh, decisions. What type of dwarf healer do I want to make? I think I'm going to go with chantless. No, not chantless, inner. Yeah, because this would free us up early on, especially. Maybe early on, I wouldn't have them with a piece of equipment that is upgraded to be a catalyst. So the fact that this removes that requirement will allow us to use, say, like a shield, like a heavy shield and a weapon. So yeah, I think inner arcana is going to be the way to go. Let's do that. Inner arcana. All right, cool. 3 done, 3 to go for archetypes. So with the thief, oh, I'm making the changes in the background. Sorry, guys. All right, for the thief, actually, do I have any other arcane? Yeah, the insect is a mage. So let's do the arcane stuff first, and then we'll go do the others. For the insect, ooh, what to do for the insect? The insect is gonna do. What if we did? You know what? I think the insect actually is going to go with inner because I don't want the insect to have the catalyst. And then I think we will go back to arcane upkeep for the dwarf. Yeah, so let's do that. Let's do inner for the insect, and let's do arcane upkeep for the dwarf. I like that. Okay. All right, so that takes care of our arcane archetypes for those that need it. And then we have the fighter and the thief. So for the fighter, oh, there's so many options. We can go dual wield. No, it's a bear. It is a bear. You got to remember that it's a bear. What to do for the bear? Oh, you know what? I think we're going to go with predator. Yeah. So I had somebody ask me, like, dude, why is predator and prey in the archetype feature and not racial feature? And I think the logic here is that you don't have to be a certain race to be classified as a predator or prey. I think predator and prey more so is the behavior. And sure, based on like maybe how you're born, you could see it as a racial thing. But I mean, like, think of humans. Humans, we have predators, not that kind of predator, but we have those that are more like, say, alpha, right? And then you got those that are a bit more meek and beta. So I think archetype might be as interesting as it is to see these under archetype. I think it's the right category for predator and prey. Yeah. So you guys let me know what you think, though. Does that make sense? I think it does. But I think predator is going to be the one we want to go with. So predator, as a reaction against a target of a smaller size, gain advantage to a search or attack challenge. So the bear, since it's large, right, we're going to be able to try to mess some stuff up. So I think predator would be good for that. So let me find predator on the list. We'll add that to our bear dude. Well, not really even a bear. He is a bear. Literally a bear. And for our thief, we want to be quick. We want to be swift. Or maybe we make it the underdog. So the underdog is fun because if there are more hostile targets than friendly targets, gain advantage. So if I see two enemies and I know I have two allies, this isn't going to help me. But if I know that I'm up against three enemies and I only have two allies, then I basically always get a bonus. So that could be nice. Although we are a cat, so maybe swift combatant would be really good too. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking swift combatant might be good. So as a reaction, right? Actually, I talked about this one earlier. Let's see if there's any others, though. Let's see if there's any others. The thief as a lone wolf, if there's no friendly targets within 2 reach, gain advantage on a body or skill challenge, which could be useful. I don't know if that's the vibe I want for our little cat thief here. Actually, no, we're just gonna, I said gat? Typed it wrong. Cat thief, not gat thief. Although we do have firearms in the game, so maybe they are a gat thief. I don't know. I do think swift combatant sounds like fun. And I think a thief would be using daggers, right? I think that's what I want to do. So let's do swift combatant. All right, so that'll take care of our archetypes. And actually, now that we have multiple categories, let's go ahead and open it up, right? So we have swift for the thief. Let's actually bump this up to large. And then we have inner arcana for insect mage. Yeah, we'll simplify some of these names just to keep it a little shorter. The bear has predator, and the elf has guardian. The dwarf has arcane upkeep, and the ranger has hunter tracker. All right. I think I said I was going to come back, right? So actually, now that we know that the human is a ranger, let me actually finish up the racial feature. So it's pretty flexible when you're creating a character, right? You don't have to follow the rules one by one. I think I say it, I forget where I say it, but yeah, stats can be finalized at any point during character creation. Realistically, right, as you're determining your features, as long as you know what race that you selected, right, from the racial types, then your features you could finish it at any time. You don't have to do it in this order. It's just kind of a step-by-step instruction. So we want to now add As a ranger, I think the one I want to go with is, where are you? As a ranger, let's give this guy natural terrain. I think that'd be appropriate. Who else did I give natural terrain to? It was the elf. That's fine. I think that's fine. All right. So we have now, right, at level 1. So these are what we get from racial points from a racial type, and then we have archetypes, which you get for free. Now you get up to 3 of these, so I could spend the character points here instead. And I think what I'm going to do for this video is just add the kind of base, and then we'll choose how we want to rank up, because I'm not going to give them all just a wide variety. I think if you need like a benchmark to choose, how many features should I focus on? I think a good benchmark would be like level +1, or maybe like about your level should be how many you might consider leaning into. Just because early on, you're not going to have a whole lot of reactions, right? You're going to have to bump that up as you add points into stats. So I think what we'll do, let's start with human. Now, for this, where do we start here? Let's check out talents first. I think talents would be a good place to start, just because I haven't actually started from talents yet. Let's better yet start with professions. Let's see, are there any of our guys that we feel should have a profession? Most of these probably no. I'm going to actually stagger them a little bit so I can see the title I chose for each of these. Okay, so alchemist, brewer, cook, disguiser. Disguiser might be good for the thief. Dungeoneer, forager, gambler might be fun for, let's add gambler to the thief. I think that'd be fun. So gambler is going to, see, we need to clean up the formatting here a little bit. But gambler as an action, while performing gambling activity, add rank to the mind challenge to search for fair play. At rank 6, you could add skill. At rank 9, you could add advantage. So it all follows kind of the rough, similar formula that we see here. Oh, and also, when you take a profession during character creation, there's some kind of a bonus that you're going to get. So gambler, I could actually roll 5d6 and gain 10x as currency if the result is 21 or less. So what is it? 5 times 6 is 30, right? So if I get somewhere between 22 and 30, I get nothing. But if it's 21 or less, I get 10x that as starting currency. So yeah, you know what? The cat girl thief might have some deep pockets. Not a bad idea. As a thief, we might actually want to take locksmith as well, because locksmith, as a action when using a lockpick, add rank to skill challenge, disarm, lock, or trap. And at rank 6, add speed. At rank 9, gain advantage. And there's some formatting here, but lockpicks do get destroyed. Lockpicks are a toolkit in the game, so lockpicks do have like a number of uses and actually can be destroyed. So if you roll poorly, right, the lockpick breaks, which I think is reasonable. I think that's a fun little video game kind of mini game that you might have to interpret it as. So, all right, we'll add 2 professions to our thief for now. Oh, pickpocket, though. I also have pickpocket. Darn. All right, you know what? That's too many, because the cat girl thief is only going to get 16 points at level 3. Well, I say only. That's actually quite a few, right? So, all right, we'll leave the rank 1 for each of those for now. The bear is not going to have any professions. Insect is not going to have professions. Let's actually move those closer to each other. The tank, the elf. Ooh, maybe the elf will give musician or performer. That's pretty standard for like an elf, right? What should we do? The dwarf healer, I want him to be a cook. He's going to be making meals, keeping people topped off. I like that idea. The ranger, he's going to be a survivalist for sure. So survivalist is going to give us the ability to use a survival kit and get some bonuses through our rolls. So we can add rank to our mind challenge when using a survival kit. So this might be, yeah, certain situations where we have to survive and you maybe spot some stuff. Actually, maybe this should be backwards. Maybe it should be skill then mind. It might have to be the other way around. But if taken during character creation, we also start with the kit. So that's also useful if a profession has a specific tie to a toolkit. And yeah, for the elf, I think what should we do here? Now, hopefully so far, right, the professions are following a pretty simple formula of, hey, you add rank if you're using what the profession needs to work. And at rank 6, you get an additional stat. So if you invest in that profession, you go from just learning and getting, a flat bonus to gaining an additional stat that contributes to that bonus. And then at rank 9, you have a much greater odds of succeeding when using that profession because, well, you maxed it out. So professions have a pretty simple formula. So if there's a type of profession that either you as a player or as a dungeon manager running games find that, hey, you're missing something here, hopefully you guys have the ability to really create kind of something that works for you in your games. Maybe if there's enough feedback of, hey, like this is a common one that a bunch of people are bringing up, maybe we'll officially add it to the system. But for now, I think we have a decent spread. The elf, though, as a tanky elf, maybe they'll be like singing while they tank. I think that might be a fun little thing that they could do. So we'll add performer. Now, you don't have to add professions, obviously. I just want to create some flavorful characters that can be like NPCs in some future playtests or something, and walk you all through kind of my thought process. Maybe it's a little complex because I'm going through 6 characters kind of feature by feature, but think of it as I don't know how to think about it. We're going through the features. I think the focus for this video is really kind of just that creation process. And at the end, right, we'll go through each one and kind of talk about what we added, what the playstyle might kind of end up being, and how we might see our character building in the future. So we have our professions. Let's also look at talents, because talents follow a very similar kind of template, which is, there's a condition, and then based on how many ranks you put into it, you get a flat bonus to a, type of challenge. And then at rank 6, you're proficient enough where you gain an additional stat that affects that challenge. And then at rank 9, you're so proficient that your odds of success are greatly improved by gaining advantage. So I know this might seem, what's the word I'm thinking about? It might seem overly simplified to some, but I think this creates a situation where not only does, say, like having acrobatics, it's not just some flat bonus that you get that you just automatically get as you level up. It's something that you as a character say, I really want to be good at acrobatics. I'm going to be dumping points into it. I don't know if I'll get it all right away, but once I hit these milestones, there's a clear improvement, and that really kind of helps to create these unique characters that players will have running through their various adventures and situations and conflicts and what have you. So personally, I find it to be quite enjoyable. And so far the feedback from playtesters has been generally quite positive. I'd say there's occasionally one that's a bit skeptical because it's so different from other systems, right? I think one example would be there was a playtester recently who commented how it felt like there's things that I want to be good at as a character, but we don't have, say, like skills on the character page. Well, I think, right, we have to look at the features. So if you want to be good at acrobatics, you have to put points into acrobatics. If you want to be more athletic, you got to put points into athletic. If you want to be more perceptive, put more points into perceptive mind, for example. So, and if you want to be good at stealth, put points to stealth training. So the naming, right? Obviously, feel free to reflavor, what makes sense to you for your adventures and your campaign and your character builds, as long as your dungeon manager says it's fair game. But it's meant to be, again, this modular feature-based system. So yeah, let us know what you think. Try it out. Try making a character. It's quite simple to do. Obviously, I have the unfair advantage of knowing most of the talents that exist, and I think we've tried to cover quite a good variety initially. So if you find that there's something really missing, join our Discord. Let us know what you think. So for talents, right? Let's see if there's anything that pops into my mind here. I'm thinking our cat girl thief here could do well with stealth training. That seems like a good one to have. And our ranger might do well with kindred spirit. So kindred spirit, and so stealth training I already talked about. Kindred spirit is when you're performing an activity, some kind of a social activity with a beast or a monster, and you're not trying to bring hostility to the table. You can get rank to body and at 6 to mind. Again, maybe these need to be swapped. I'll have to think about it. But yeah, we have, again, we're pushing 200 features, so there's some that maybe was a remnant from our Alpha 1 that maybe didn't get another look at. So again, in time, we're going to be going through features again, really trying to clean it up, make sure it makes sense, make sure the progression of them makes sense, especially the ones that have multiple ranks. But it is a lot, and I am just one man trying to be a dungeon man. But which one was I looking at? Kindred Spirit. Yeah, let's add that to the Ranger for now. And if we need to make some tweaks, we could always do so later. The tank. Do I want him to have leadership? So leadership when you're trying to give commands or orders, right? So this guy, if he's kind of regal and can, boss people around, leadership might be a good idea. But as a tank, as a tank, I don't know if anyone else is really, like, the insect is obviously not going to really have any talents here that I want. In my mind, I'm thinking something almost like Starship Troopers mixed with like an arachnid. For this one, maybe Perceptive Mind. I might have to come back to it. I'm not really thinking of anything that I want to give an insect mage in terms of specific things. I think the insect mage is really going to be just getting as many spells and abilities for messing stuff up. So I think this is probably a good start for talents. And next up, let's look at character features. So character features, again, is more like, what does the character do? Now, Battle Him is going to give us, I believe, a reaction. Yeah, it's a reaction, and targets up to rank targets up to within rank spaces. So at low ranks, this is really like a small AoE, but the more ranks you put in it, the wider that AoE becomes, and the more targets you can choose. So yeah, as a reaction up to rank targets within rank spaces gain advantage on their next body or mind. So that could be quite good, actually. And the character that had Performer, so the tank, it might be cool to have the tank just kind of sitting on the front lines, singing a tune, boosting everyone around him. I kind of like that idea. So let's add Battle Hymn to that. Aggressive. Ooh, aggressive has to go on the bear. So aggressive, as a reaction at the start of your turn, spend up to rank move speed and gain advantage if you perform an attack. So basically, you can charge up at the start of your turn, spending up to rank movement, and then you get advantage when you go to attack. So pretty easy one to get. Yeah, I think we'll add that to the bear for now. Beast Hunter for the ranger, perhaps. Now he doesn't necessarily have to be going after beasts though, right? That's the deal. Call out, on the other hand, might be good, right? The ranger's kind of paying attention. So call out, when a hostile target up to rank spaces makes rank spaces from, ooh, I have makes in here twice. I gotta make sure that gets removed. So yeah, as a reaction, when a hostile target up to rank spaces from you makes an attack, call out to, ooh, what is going on with the formatting on this one? It's all sorts of messed up. Call out to a friendly target you can see and gain advantage to gain advantage if they perform defend reaction. Yeah, see, even this one's not quite right for me. Let me go ahead and update that on the companion app so that's not going to confuse anyone else. Call out. All right, we got rid of the extra characters there. And then, what's next? So yeah, call out. Do we want to add that to range? I think we'll add it for now. Cornered animal. Cornered animal might be good for the bear. As a reaction, when health points are below half or critically wounded, add rank to attack or damage. I think that seems fitting for the bear. Especially if they're going to be up in the front line trying to beat people up, that seems pretty good to me. Let's see here. Let's see here. What else? Combat tempo. Combat tempo is an interesting one. This might be good for the insect if it's using its natural weapons. So as a reaction after dealing damage, perform a follow-up attack and add rank to the attack challenge. And you can do this per challenge, so this could get a little wild, potentially. So let's do that for the mage. That might be like their one combat like feature. Who knows? The thief, where are you? Let's add concealed attack. I think concealed attack is going to give us a bonus when we're concealed. So as a reaction, while concealed is a condition that you can gain when using a weapon with the light or ranged attribute. Add rank to the attack challenge and double damage dice if attack hits. So if I get concealed, basically I have a decent chance because I add rank to my attack, but I also double the dice if it hits. So I could potentially deal quite a bit of extra damage every other turn unless I had something that gets me concealed more frequently. For the tank, deflect projectile might be good. So as a reaction when attacked by a ranged weapon or projectile, add rank to a skill challenge to defend against the attack. So normally, defend challenges are made using body, but this one changes it to skill. So that might be a good one to add. Let's add it for now. Maybe we'll make some adjustments later, but for now, that seems like a good one. The ranger having the ability to disarm might be pretty good. So disarming attack is as a reaction when making an attack against a target, choose to focus on their arms or legs and add rank to an attack challenge. If the attack deals damage, inflict the effect on whether inflict an effect based on whether arms or legs were the focus. So arms, you could make them drop a weapon or item, and if it's the legs, you can cause them to become prone. I think the ranger being kind of flexible, having a feature that has that flexibility would be pretty useful. I also want to give him familiar terrain. So he has natural terrain, but familiar terrain is going to let us choose another terrain and also gain rank to mine challenges. Up to rank targets may move in rough terrain as if normal. So the ranger could help guide and kind of pathfind. So I think that's a good one to have. Let's see, what else do we have here? Play dead. Play dead's going to be going on somebody. Who should I put play dead on? Play dead's a funny feature. Do we put it on the... Who do we put it on, though? I really want to put play dead on somebody. Maybe the healer. So play dead as a reaction after receiving damage. I should probably change this to after... No, we'll leave it at receiving damage for now, but immediately go prone and fake becoming incapacitated. A target may perform a mind challenge minus rank against your skill to detect deceit. I want the higher rank of play dead to affect the challenge that someone else takes, but maybe I should just add it to the passive, because I really don't like the idea that I have to remind somebody else rolling to reduce something, right? So I think this will get reworded at some point where it adds to your passive skill to be detected rather than reducing it on somebody else's role. In this case, most likely going to be the dungeon manager, right? So, but yeah, play dead. Let's add that to the healer, because if the healer, like, even if he's wearing heavy armor, maybe he gets hit. Maybe he's dramatic. Yeah, he's the cook, right? Maybe he doesn't like to get hurt. Who knows? But I think that'd be a good one to have. Powerful attack. Let's add powerful attack to the bear. Powerful attack is going to give us the ability as a reaction when making an attack to add rank to the damage if it hits. So it's just straight up extra damage. So we definitely want the bear, who's going to be playing as our fighter, to deal damage if he's able to hit. So adding that extra bonus is pretty good. The ranger, on the other hand, I think is the one we want to add precision attacks to. So precision attack gets us the ability to ignore armor score up to rank. So that could be useful because the ranger, maybe he's like a dead eye. Maybe he's paying attention, right? So he could potentially remove, or ignore, I should say, armor score of a target. Shield bash, shield brace. Oh, some of these we should add. Well, we'll keep going down the list. So rampage. As a reaction to start your turn, spend move speed up to rank in a straight line. Deal body damage to each adjacent target you pass. Let's add this to the bear. The bear's gonna rampage down, knocking people over. That seems pretty thematic. I like that. The tank. Well, let's add scout to the ranger also. The ranger, right, when performing reaction, or not, as a reaction, when performing a search challenge, double your vision reach and determine the observable equipment and characteristics of up to rank targets. Now, I feel like I'm adding quite a few, but for the character, right, we have 18 on the human. And right now I've only added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ranks worth of character features, right? The first archetype one doesn't count. That one was gained for free, and racial points draw from a different pool. So we at least have quite a few that we can still increase or upgrade. Shockwave attack. I'm not going to add that on anybody, but I do want the tank to have one of these. If the tank is, let's get shield bash. So as a reaction when performing a guard or after a guard, make an attack with the shield and add rank to the skill challenge. So shields in Dungeon Core 20 are weapons. So that means you could build that character who literally uses 2 shields. And, well, I don't know if we're going to do that with the elf here, but having that attack ability, I think will be good. Let's see here. Steady legs. If you are wearing, this gives advantage. Resist prone. I was thinking about steady legs for our insect, but because we already have additional legs to help kind of resist getting proned, I don't think we need steady legs on that guy. 6th Sense, on the other hand, what was this one? As a reaction when attacked by a target from up to ranked spaces from you, gain advantage to a guard or dodge. So it's kind of like instinct, but it doesn't have anything against the concealed. But I guess this one doesn't need it because as long as it doesn't imply it. So again, a little bit of wording. I'll probably have to clean up. Wall run. The cat might be good at wall running. Yeah, where's our thief at? Where is our thief at? There you are. Let's give you wall run. So as a reaction when using move speed to traverse over vertical surface, spend up to rank move speed to reach a space. So you just flat out, based on your rank, can reach, as long as you have the move speed to do it, vertically to whatever you need, which I think a cat girl could do. That seems reasonable. And the ranger, let's also add weapon parry. So weapon parry, as a reaction when attacked and holding a weapon, add rank to a skill challenge against the attack and receive the benefits of a dodge or guard depending on the result. So if you succeed, you dodge all the damage, right? You parry it successfully. Failure, you guard, which could mitigate through armor score a bunch of the damage. But if the attack was big, there's still some damage. Your parry is not going to be nearly as effective. So War cry. I think we're gonna add war cry to the bear. So war cry, up to ranked targets within ranked spaces are feared. If a target resists becoming feared, they gain provoked instead. So it's either they can't move closer or you've got their attention. I think that's super appropriate for the bear. Words of inspiration. Where's our elf at? I think words of inspiration might actually be a good one for this guy. So words of inspiration, as a reaction when a target up to ranked spaces away performs a challenge, add your arcane stat to their challenge. So if you're tanking and you got nothing better to do than, guarding, maybe you throw out some words. Actually, let's put that on the dwarf. I think the dwarf would actually be better for that. Yeah, let's do that. He's the healer. He's going to be in the back. You can do it. I think that's a good one. All right. So I think for now, let's stop there for character features and look at our arcane features for our two arcane classes here. So human, the dwarf will be one. The elf is the tank, which has guardian, so that's not going to be one. Swift combatant isn't one. Bear is not one. So it's going to be the mage and the dwarf who have arcane features. Now, again, arcane features are interesting because they can be reflavored, and you can tell kind of by the generic naming. Each one is named for a specific kind of definition of sorts. Some of them do have more specific purposes, right? So if I actually pull up the app, which I know we haven't looked at quite as much, right? But again, all of our profession features are listed here. All the professions are listed under the utility category, while talents, right, have different types. So some are sensory, some are utility. So these classifications, these types here, are the, I guess, well, the classification, I think I used that word right, of what the feature kind of does. Does it affect the senses, right? Is it something that's affecting kind of your mind or skill in that regard? Is it movement, which might be something that relates to spending move speed or the speed stat? And then you have defensive abilities, which have something to do with maybe protecting yourself or potentially another. If it has multiple effects, it tends to fall into the utility category. And I don't think any talents are offensive, but we do have, again, features like character features, which are offensive, which typically focuses on performing a challenge against a target, right? Or affecting a target. So you can get a kind of rough idea of what these are. And these could also be filtered, right? So we can come in here and say type, right? Is it an enhancement that improves your character? Is it a utility which has maybe multiple types of targets that it could affect, or have multiple conditions that it can do? Conditions is the wrong word. What's the word? Multiple, it could have like positive or negative benefits, right? Pretty flexible term there. So yeah, you have filters. You could use them to try to help categorize some of these. But yeah, arcane features, right? Arcane features are going to be very interesting in that it's really a question of how you flavor them and how do you implement them to your character themselves. Now, some of them are a bit more direct in the TTRPG world. So for those, we might have, say, like recovery, whereas an action, restore health points to a target and choose effects. So you can restore rank health points or add arcane to the recovery. Or, depending on the rank, you could also, remove a particular condition, which rank 9 recovery is super useful because there's not anything, I think, in the game by default. No, there is an item that you can remove petrified, but petrified is pretty dangerous. Paralyzed, a lot of these conditions, right, get applied on contact of sorts or on use, depending on the definition. So conditions can be pretty detrimental, but we don't try to lean in to conditions nearly as heavily as some other systems. I think it's really up to the dungeon manager to decide how what's the word, frequent conditions affect players, because let's be real, right, at the end of the day, it is still a game, and there are situations where conditions are appropriate and needed, but there's also situations where, like, it doesn't feel good as a player to get taken out of the game, or to have situations where you have a combat that lasts, the traditional 4 rounds, 6 rounds, pretty long, I know, but combat in Dungeon Core 20 is nice and kind of quick and snappy, and the rounds go quick because what you do is kind of spread out across the round. But we don't want, again, players to feel like they're just gibbed, right? They can't do anything. So features, conditions usually play into that concept of, hey, there's very few things in Dungeon Core 20 that are going to just take you out of the fight for a prolonged period of time and just kind of ruin the enjoyment of being able to play. Especially because also I've run games where we go 3-4 hours, and if combat goes long in other systems and it's like a 40-minute, 1 hour combat and a guy is just like unconscious for 20-40 minutes, that's no fun, right? That's, I think, bad mechanics at work. So hopefully our system helps to alleviate some of that pain that we see out there. So a healer, though, a healer who's also a cook, meditation might be a good one. So during a short rest, recover arcane roll plus rank mana points for each innate affinity. So he doesn't have any special innate affinity, but being able to get extra recovery could be useful, especially since he's our healer, right, in this example. So let's add meditation for now. Also recovery as the healer. I think that's a pretty good one to take. And let's also consider touch. Add rank to an arcane roll damage or healing. So when you're up close, make a skill challenge to touch. Obviously, if it's an ally, they could choose to fail that. Now, I remember somebody in our playtest complaining, or not complaining, I guess voicing an opinion that healing seems low, which we're not going to have huge burst healing. If you want to do huge burst healing, you could take features like Might, which as a reaction when invoking an arcane feature, add rank to the damage or healing. So you could, say, use one of these, touch or recovery, which is an action to go and heal an ally, and then boost it if you had put points into Might, right? Make stronger heals. I could also say take, where is it? Say I take, what did I call it? It was Reach? No, Reach is the other one. Expansion. Yeah, so as a reaction when invoking arcane feature, increase its area by rank. So I could potentially do like a heal on a target and make it like an area blast. And then also use a reaction to make it stronger. So it's a stronger area blast, which, round per round, maybe the heal isn't as much as some other systems out there. But across, again, rounds are quick, right? So if someone takes a big hit, maybe I need 2 rounds of healing to help recover that. And you'll also notice that none of these features have like a reach. Like if there is a reach or a range, it's defined in the description. We obviously need to think about that a little bit more. I don't think we're going to be including a rank or a reach unless it's very specific. But in most cases, right, as long as you can see a target and as long as it's within, I guess, a control range, then it'll be fine. We used to have what's the word I'm looking for? We used to have a rule for what we were calling combat vision, which was something kind of put together to give, especially if you're playing in like a virtual tabletop, a gauge for where does your vision reach kind of last, because we have the option in these tabletop environments to add a distance, right, that your token can see. So I think what we're going to have to think about a little bit more there, we've moved it to our optional rules. So actually, if I pull up our companion app here and go down towards the bottom, we have a section here for the Dungeon Manager Manual. So under our optional homebrew rules, right, is where we moved our combat vision. So if you need reference to that, this is where it is. But yeah, we're still kind of thinking like how do we want to handle like vision and control range. I think if there is going to be some sort of a range to arcane features, it'll be through control. But because the arcane features in general could be translated to use as, say, like heavy equipment for mechs or superpowers, which may not have a hard range limit. And plus it always kind of sucked when you go to use an ability and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm 5 feet off. Right? We use spaces in Dungeon Core 20, so it's like how many spaces away are you from the target? Which we were when we did the math, one space is roughly 5 feet if you are wanting to do the conversion. I believe we include that in our terms here somewhere for, was it under, where was it under? We have reach in here somewhere. I should just use the search field. Reach attribute. No, it's under grid. Do we say it in here? No, we just say, oh yeah, here we go. During combat, space is equal to about to 5 feet for the purpose of converting. Maybe I don't need to say combat. Well, you know what? The reason why I do that is because there are some rules that talk about movement on like a map, right? Which actually, you know what? Use your eyes. It's right below it. So yeah, during travel, measurement is on a grid. So you might say the town is 6 spaces away on the world kind of zoom out level. So that's at least the thinking, but obviously with more play testing, we'll come to a conclusion if we're going to keep it that way or if we need to maybe just tweak the description or actually make a more direct change. We'll figure that out. All right. Well, I'm running out of time because I only have maybe 30 minutes left here. So let's get back to building our characters. So where did our dwarf healer go? You know, I thought it'd be quick, but I know I'm doing way more talking than I was expecting to. So the dwarf healer, right? Again, we gave him we gave him recovery, we gave him meditation. Let's also add might, just because, again, that is the way to increase the strength of recovery or attacks. And then let's also consider oh, my scroll wheel has been acting up, unfortunately. Banish. Add rank to an arcane challenge and the upkeep of an arcane summon, arcane animation, or banish a hostile arcane entity. So we can make a challenge to end the upkeep, which causes some sort of a creature to disappear, which could be useful. Armor might be useful. As an action, gain 1 armor score per rank. If I want to be a tanky healer, let's do that. Let's grab that. All right, so how many? I have 17. Oh, we got plenty. We got plenty. We'll take counter as well. And surely, oh, descent's probably a good one. So counter is going to allow us to challenge the role of someone who's invoking. And if we beat their challenge, we can nullify it, right? Now, counter is an interesting one because we don't really add flavor text to the features. If you guys would like to see flavor text, we could consider it. But initially, we decided not to because we thought it would it would influence, right, our players and how they end up building their characters. So we want to tackle the mechanics first before we start considering lore and flavor for the greater part of the game. So, but you guys let us know. But the idea with counter, I was thinking, would be cool where because it's rolling a challenge, you could flavor the challenge to be like, hey, I'm counter spelling or counter casting or counter what's the word? Basically, it's like it's a arcane challenge against an arcane challenge. So you could really flavor this kind of however you want based on, say, like your affinity, right? Because if, for example, the dwarf healer here had I guess we'll give him, shoot, what should we give him for affinity? Let's go with spirit, right? So I could flavor this like, hey, somebody casts a they want to cast a bolt at one of my party members, I'm going to counter it by, creating this wall of thorns that gets obliterated and takes the hit instead. Like, that's all fair game. You can narrate it however you see fit. Make it fun. All right, well, I think those are probably good to start with. There's probably some that I'm overlooking for at the moment, but I think for now that'll be all right. And then for the mage, we want to mess some stuff up. So I think as a big insect mage, I want to have like these spikes that get thrown out and shot out, and maybe the insect is like alien of sorts. So missile is a feature that we have, which adds a bunch of auto hitting projectiles, one projectile per rank. So it's your traditional missile feature, missile spell in a sense, but handled a little differently. But I think that's a good one, right? I'll flavor it as the insect has a bunch of like little, maybe it's almost like, what's the word? There's larva, which is like the worm phase, and then there's between the larva and adult, right? Maybe it shoots out a bunch of younger insects, or maybe drones. Drones might be the way to put it. Yeah, and fires them, and they kind of track in and try to take somebody out. Let's also add. Oh, where's actually like barrier? I think barrier was the spell. Barrier. Here it is. As a reaction when attacked, reduce the target's attack challenge by a rank and nullify any attacks auto hit. Yeah, so if the insect has auto hit, let's put barrier on our mage as well to help protect ourselves. And also, actually, here's another interesting one that I haven't seen in other systems, but I created one called remote, which when invoking an arcane feature, the source of the feature originates up to rank spaces away. So I could use remote to invoke a feature that normally would be maybe like affecting my space or a target creature. This one lets me basically put it where I want. So there might be some interesting implications that we could use and combine. So I'm going to add that to the door for now. And part of what I'm thinking here is, I think the intention that we had with like remote is I could use, say, armor, where it says as an action gain armor score per rank. If I use that with remote, if I was a dungeon manager running a game and a player decided to try using remote to give armor to like an ally, I would let that pass, right? So this is kind of the system that we want to build with these features that can be boosted through using reactions and affecting others. And I had the screen covered the whole time. I'm sorry, guys. So I've been adding everything we've been talking about here. But the one thing, right, that we want to keep in mind is that many of these features, the vast majority of these features, are going to have an economy of reactions, which of course all the top ones are actions. Here, you know what? Here's a way we can filter it. So if we look for actions, we will see that there's 26. Oh, I'm surprised how many actions for arcane we have. But archetypes, right? You see, actually, there's no character features that are actions. They're all reactions. There they all are. So arcane features actually have more actions than reactions, but character features are all reactions. So it's interesting. Let us know what you guys think. Let us know in the Discord if you find one that is just wildly miscategorized. Again, we're reaching like 200 features. There's, I think, 150 items or maybe it was 100 items and like 150 descriptions. So there's still a lot we have to do, but it's come together quite a lot. I started DungeonCore20 and started building it at the beginning of last year in 2023. So it's still a young system, right? I know there's a lot of aspiring TTRPG system builders out there that have been around for a bit longer, but a lot of them, after hearing one of our early playtesters tell me that, if you want to create a new system, like this one feels like a D&D module, I think that's something that a lot of others should really think about when they're developing their design as well. I think I'm taking on a different challenge here. At least I've yet to see one like it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, so I think the dwarf has enough features. I think we're good with there. Let's finish up the insect with some more damage. Shroud. Ooh, let's put Shroud. The insect can like mask itself somehow, camouflage. So up to rank targets within rank spaces gain concealed. So maybe the insect mage creates like an area of, there's some kind of like a fog or a mist that it creates around it somehow. That I like that idea. And then also, in case that's going to affect vision, oh, you know what? It has nocturnal sight, but this one gives you visibility regardless of conditions. Ooh, I'm tempted. If it's a mage insect, I kind of want it to have that over nocturnal, because this will kind of give it like that blind sight almost with arcane. Let's add it for now. We might have to change nocturnal off of it, but I like the idea of having that. Touch, we don't want. Let's see, what else would be good? We definitely want might to make stuff stronger. Let's see here. Line, ooh, this would be like an acid spit or something. Yeah, invoke a straight line of arcana that hits all targets up to rank reach. So early on, it's not going to go far, but at later ranks, it can. And do I want bolt? Nah. Blast? Maybe. Counter. What was defense? When receiving arcane damage, reduce arcane. Ooh, you know what? The mage being an insect, maybe it's like super magic resistant type of a deal. Let's do that. And that keeps these two a little different in their choices as well. Yeah, let's start with that for now. Okay, cool. So I think we have pretty much all of them loaded up with a handful of features now. There's probably still a few character features that I want to give these guys, but we'll come back to that. So next up is, do I want to do all the ranks? You know what? We'll save this for next time. So now that we've kind of built like the basics of what we want on our character, and we're creating we're creating characters who are level 3. So again, they have quite a lot of character points to spend, because again, every level you're going to get 6. Every level up you get 6. At character creation, it depends on the race that you chose, but you know, humans get 6 all the way down to beasts, which get 5, or not 5, 3, and then we have monsters, which are going to get 2, right? So the math for it is that there's 8 points, and characters have 6 character, monsters have 6 racial, and then the leftover goes to the characters. So hopefully pretty straightforward. So yeah, again, races, we have them all lined up here in the races tab. But yeah, we have all of our sheets now set up. So I'm not going to bump these ranks up, but I think what we'll do is maybe in a future video we'll revisit these guys, right? Because for example, our insect mage has 14 character points, and right now, excluding again the free archetype we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we still have 7 more points that we could spend. And what I could do, actually, this is always an option. You could spend 1 character point to get your additional archetypes, and you can have a max of 3. So actually, you know what? We were struggling earlier with the dwarf because I wasn't sure if I wanted inner or arcane upkeep. I think one of the things that we can do now, for example, is come in here and add, which one was it? It was inner arcana. We'll add inner arcana, arcane upkeep, and then hell, maybe we'll even give him the third one just because as an example, right? So, ooh, you know what? Speaking of arcane, the insect mage, I want to give this guy mutation. So maybe it's like a tyrannid almost. That would be something else. Yeah, because mutation, gain 1 racial feature when you acquire this feature. And anytime you spend 1 or more vitality dice, ooh, this one didn't get updated. Anytime you spend Vigor dice. So originally, Vigor used to be called Vitality dice because it was tied to your Vitality stat. But what we found is like when you say Vitality dice, because the stat for Vitality is also using dice, it was generating a bit of confusion within the player base. So we are calling them Vigor dice now, which I think Vigor is pretty appropriate because Vigor kind of ties to your, I guess, what's the word? It's like mental. It's both physical and mental kind of energy, right? Like if you run out of vigor, maybe you're just so mentally exhausted that you just pass out or you're gone. You're gone. You just the will to live is gone. Who knows? But physically, maybe you're just so fatigued, out of vigor that affects you somehow. So, yeah, you get that, and then you also, as a reaction during rest, can replace or gain a feature. Yeah, because you can lose it to double the results of that previous effect. So I think mutation on the insect is actually kind of terrifying. And you know what? Let's top off the insect. I'm so interested in this insect mage idea now that I kind of want to, if I'm going to finish any character, I think that's the one we're going to finish today. So, you know what? Let's do that. Let's focus on the insect just to kind of wrap it all up. And you know what? The insect also is not going to get any inventory. So, what we're going to do actually is I come back here and go to equipment. When you get to the character creation part of your character builds, right, and creating a character, you have the option to just get your weapons and armor and such for free. But what we could do is also sacrifice one of up to two of these choices to get +1 character point per. So we can get an extra 2 character points by not taking a weapon, not taking armor, and just flat out skipping these first 2 steps, which I think is super appropriate because I don't need a weapon. I have natural weapons. I'm going to be casting spells with this guy. So I kind of like it. Ooh, I really kind of like it. So yeah, this guy, right, has 14 points. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that leaves me with 6 more. So I think what we'll do, right, archetype features and racial features all have 1 rank max, but character and arcane features can be bumped up all the way to 9. So I think missile, let's bump that up to 3 for now. No, let's bump that up to 5. So that takes up 4. I got 2 more. Shroud, this was up to rank targets within. Okay, I only need 1. I just need that to affect myself. Sight, man, this one needs to be a little larger. I think sight we're going to put at least 2. So this will give them kind of some arcane vision around them or near them. And then we'll put 1 more point in. Line was a number, it's rank reach. So line isn't actually really strong for us right now. Combat tempo was adding rank to attack. You know what? Combat tempo, I'm going to bump that up 1 more point. So rank 3, right? You can see just by adding a bunch of points into missile, I'm basically down to, I think I'm done, right? We got 3, 8, 11, 14. Oh, and I get +2 because I'm not taking equipment. So let's also bump up line. You know what? No, I'm going to drop line and just change this to be a missile blasting insect. It just sounds terrifying. Yeah, let's do that. Let's get rid of line. We'll get 1 more missile. So the point from line will go into missile for now. And then the remaining 2, yeah, in case I run out of mana as well. So let's put those 2 into combat tempo. So that'll give us all of our ranks. Now, you don't have to spend all your points when you level up. So like next level, if I wanted to save my 6 points and decide later or during a situation to spend them, you could always do that, which is why it doesn't auto-calculate. It's editable. But for now, we put all the points in. What did I say at the beginning? Like if you roughly consider focusing on like level +1. So right now we have missile and combat tempo that we're really leaning into. And then rather than focusing on like 1 or 2 more, Instead, we've kind of diversified. So we have a little bit of an ability to reduce some arcane damage for free, or not for free, as a reaction. So yeah, features, I think that's good. I think this insect, this large insect that runs around and just starts firing missiles at dudes could shroud itself. And if you get close, it just tries to do this sustained claw attack or scythe attack with its natural weapons. Ooh, this guy sounds interesting. I'm kind of looking forward to pitting up some play testers using it. Let's also bump up our stats real quick. So what we could do here is arcane, right? We're going to want to, well, he has an auto hit ability. So maybe we'll bump arcane, and it's a big insect. Do I need mind? I do want to be able to detect, guys. So we'll put that to 8 as well. Speed, we're going to bump speed up. For the attack, we'll bump skill. Oh, this guy's going to be all evened out. It's large. We'll add vitality. You know what? It's going to be using spells a lot, so maybe I don't need a whole lot of speed. I just need to be able to... I got one more point. I wanted to have a lot of health, too. I want it to be, like, deceptively difficult to take down. Maybe I'm being... Well, we'll see how that plays out. Now, normally, right, you have your level 1 health and mana, which is for health, your max vitality, max body, so that would be 16, right? Which again, the sheets auto-calculate that. And then for each future level, so in this case 2 levels, I would just roll vitality roll twice, which if I do that, we got, what is that, 12 more. So we can go, what is that going to be, 28? That'll be 28 health. And then for mana, it's your half die. So mind and arcane are both 8, so that'd be 4 for each. That's going to be 8 total. And then we roll arcane twice to determine our mana increase. So that's going to be 6 and 7. So what is that, 18, 21, I believe, if my math is right. So yeah, having the higher vitality keeps him healthier, but having the lower mind and arcane are definitely affecting our max mana potential. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that full rest button to just top off everything. And then that, oh, and then also affinity. Let's give our big insect buddy here. What do I want to do? I kind of want to not, like, dark seems like the obvious one. This seems like some kind of a bad creature, but I kind of want to lean towards maybe force. Force, because force has ties to, let's actually pull it up real quick. So under races, here it is. So our affinities, force is earth, kinetic, thunder. And these are just examples, right? You could actually use that kind of general categorization to even take a name of some kind of a vibe or element or whatever it is you're looking for. But yeah, these are just really examples for how you can interpret. Our base categories, though, are going to be force, heat, cold, spirit, light, dark, acid, necrotic. What kind of damage do I want my spells to deal? Because arcane is affected by your innate affinity. So if I take heat affinity, I could be like, yeah, my magic, if I'm a magic caster, is like it deals fire. Like that's my focus. Or let's say I have dual affinity and I could take heat and cold. I could choose, to split the damage, or I could be like one turn I'm using fire, one turn I'm using ice. It's very flavorful in that way. So it's really up to the character and the dungeon manager to kind of work together, which is why we say Dungeon Core 20 is supposed to be a system where there's a collaborative journey that we're trying to go on here, where you could go full in to wild character builds, have a little fun with the narration and flavoring, and as the dungeon manager have a very straightforward system of like, hey, what kind of character do I want to make, or what kind of creature or NPC do I want to make, and what are the features that I need to get there, right? So there's a way to kind of reverse engineer it that way, or if you're feeling so motivated, right, kind of create templates for your players to be like, hey, these are the elves in this world. These are the dwarves in this world. These are the 3 tribes of beastkin in the world, right? And you can go that route as well. So super flexible, super flexible. All right, but for I think I'm gonna go actually maybe spirit because it's an insect, right? So maybe it's like a big nature insect. That might be a fun idea. It's not even like inherently evil. It's like a walking beehive, and the missiles it's shooting out are little bees that go. Oh, let's do that. I like that. Yeah, we're gonna go with spirit. So we'll check off spirit, and we got our abilities. We're not taking equipment because we have natural weapons. And did I miss anything? Right. So let's come back here. Actually, I know I keep opening and closing it. So our stats are done, right? We did our 3 improvements. We did our health and speed, which our speed stat hasn't changed, so nothing to do there. Picked our type, picked our size, which is large for the insect. Affinity, which we chose spirit. Did our racial features, did our archetypes, did our character points. Skip these to get 2 more character points. I guess we didn't do currency. I've been playing with some ideas for like what works for currency, and I think this is the one I'm currently settled on, which is 5d20s per level. So if you're starting at your adventure at level 3, right? There's really not a lot of systems that give you, like, if you start an adventure at level 3, they don't really give you the rules for the starting currency after level 1, right? So thinking about that, I'm looking at it and saying, well, what happens if, because Dungeon Core 20, level 1 and 2 are like tutorial levels, like literally think video games, not tabletop. You start off at the beach, church burns down, the village, the villagers band together to set out because my home was destroyed and monsters are coming. Whatever the starting point is, level 1 is you don't really have much. I was thinking about this earlier today. Think Harry Potter and what he was like in movie 1, where they literally knew like no magic. They had to go to class. They had to learn their spells. That's level 1. Level 3 might be the third movie where it's like, hey, they have a few abilities. They kind of know how to do a few things. They don't know a lot. They're still in their, second year? I forget. First year, second year. But they're getting better, right? They're learning the things. And also they specialize in different spells, the different magics. And then by the time, you get to level 5, you're a third year, whatever. So the progression in Dungeon Core 20 is tied to the level. So if you want to start an adventure of veteran fighters who have, served in the big war of the Calamity, and they're now retired and, working together because they're bored and they want to go on an adventure again, maybe that adventure starts at level 5 because it makes sense for them. We don't have what do they call it in Dungeons and Dragons? CR, which was challenge rating or something like that. Dungeon Core 20 doesn't do that. The level is the difficulty, the at least perceived difficulty of the character, right? Whether it's a player or a creature or an NPC. So in a village, in a town, for example, basic, villagers who just work and have like one job, that might be a level 1 or 2 character, whereas a guard at a gate might be a level 3 or 4 character, and a adventurer that is used to the roads of an uninhabitable world might be level 5 or 6, and that is a fair place to start a campaign in Dungeon Core 20. Stats progress up to level 10. Level 11 and beyond is just purely focused on optimizing and getting as many features as you see fit. And obviously, at the moment, I think in the level up, we have an estimation here at the bottom. Yeah, so I don't know if I included any sort of like racial points that you would gain, because all races will get at least 2 character points at level 1, right? I have to do the math again. Let me just pull up a calculator. We'll confirm it because it's been a long time since I mathed this out. So 19 levels worth times 6, because you get 6 character points per level, as we see here. And that totals up to 114. Okay, so it does not include level 1. So 114 divided by 9 right? Let's say I put all my all my character points into features that I'm going to get to rank 9 by the time I'm level 20. That means you can get about 12. You're guaranteed to get 12 of them. So that's pretty good variety, which, considering how, again, our character features and arcane features, I believe, are at about 40, 50. Yeah, so arcane we have 42, characters at 45, professions at 20, talents are at 15. So yeah, you got plenty of features to choose from. Likely arcane and character features, we'll have to add some more in due time. Profession and talent features, I think we have a good spread, and we'll probably look to add maybe maybe word them in a way that's more easily converted as like a template for people who want to create their own professions or their own talents. And then archetypes and racials are only one rank, right? But I think also, again, we have a pretty good spread. I would like to add a couple more archetype features. So if you would like to, join our Discord, share your thoughts, share your ideas. If you find that, hey, I look through your list and I don't see anything that lets me do X, Y, and Z, let us know. Let us know what you think, and we'd be happy to answer it either in the comments below or on our Discord. So come check us out. All right. Well, hey, we've gone ahead. We've created a few characters. We've talked about kind of the mindset for how to create characters compared to other common systems. And we finalized our insect mage, our insectoid here, our large creature with, where is it? With extra arms and extra legs and natural weapons, natural armor. This thing turned out to be quite the monster. And then obviously this one has a focus on being more arcane related. So it's using some kind of either magic. I'm now that I said the idea that this is like a walking beehive and it's just shooting out like these swarms at people. Ooh, the fact that, again, we're using these auto hit missiles, the fact that it's auto hit. Why is it auto hit? Well, maybe it's auto hit because the things that we're shooting at you to deal damage are literal creatures of smaller size. I like this a lot. I'm stoked because this is also a type of character that I just would never be able to play in another system. Play being the key word here. Obviously, as a GM, dungeon manager, the official terms of the other systems, whatever they may be. It's like if you were being creative, you can probably create a creature, a enemy that follows this kind of mindset. But as a player, oh man, this is going to be, I'm going to call this Mother. I'm going to call it Mother. Yeah, let's do it, dude. Oh man, we'll call it Mother. I guess that's a thing. Mother insect mage. Oh, I like this idea. I might convert this to a character I play in some other game. Well, that's the problem, dude. What game can I play that lets me do this? Hey, you know what? That's something. If you guys made it this far, thank you for watching. If you know of a system that does what I wish Dungeon Core 20 is creating, let me know. There's so many there's so many systems out there. They all seem to expand on either D&D or be a homebrew that's based on D&D, or it just kind of is themed and flavored in a way where it's specific to that kind of high fantasy adventure theme. Whereas, like, what if I wanted to do some kind of like a horror theme? Like, there's specific systems for horror that have like sanity and such, for example. But hey, you could convert, hey, in order to use spells, you're drawing from your sanity. I mean, there's so many creative ways that you could flavor Dungeon Core 20 to play the type of game you want to play. And really, as like a dungeon manager, right? A dungeon master, game master, whatever the word is. I want to create a system here where I just want to learn one system that I could use everywhere. And that's my vision for it. The players, the play testers going through Dungeon Core 20 so far, all of them have said that, hey, it's pretty straightforward to pick up. After like one or two like quick combats, I pretty much get it. Some people, actually, the majority of them enjoy the combat system with this reaction base. Like, I can actually do things when it's not my turn. because it's like interacting. It reminds me a lot of board games that have like deduction mechanics where you can kind of interrupt and have a conversation. It's more engaging. So I'm excited about that. I think we're on to something here with that. And yeah, obviously the one big critique that I've had so far is going to be just the wording. We do need to make another pass to clear things up, make it consistent, and find the right words. I am again just one person, and working on this for the past year, I'm a little jaded when I read something. I'm like, yeah, of course I know what that means, but I know someone who is new to Dungeon Core 20 might not see it the same way. So if you guys enjoyed seeing what kind of character creation could entail for you, and you're curious to see more, join our Discord. That's really where the conversations are happening around Dungeon Core 20. Dungeon Core 20 is a project name for our alpha. We do have a name that we are working towards for beta and beyond, which we'll have a website for when we move into beta, and soon we're coming out with our character card maker as well. Hopefully within the next, I guess it's already February, so shoot, it might be like March, April time frame that we'll have that ready. But the idea there is to give you the ability to create your own character cards. We don't have character sheets. It's kind of just this card with a list of the features. At the moment in time, though, I would absolutely love to get the ability to make a proper character creation environment. So I want to create the tools to play. I want to make sure that we get play testers with some feedback. But yeah, actually, here's the character card. Oop, that's way too big. But yes, our character cards look something like this. And the idea here, right, is that, let's make it a little smaller. You have the simple information to make your character, which is your name, your race, your level, your affinities, which this character here has 2 of because he has a feature that grants him that. We have a little stat chart that you can kind of gauge and visualize your distribution of stats, your health, your mana, your armor, and your move speed. And again, because we are this modular feature-based system, in the future, we'll add like a backside to this that people can print out to accompany the card, that where you can list, say, your racial and archetypes, maybe a card for your characters, a card for your arcane, and then a card for like talent and profession features, which should cover them all. So maybe it's like a little 4-pager, 5-pager, like fold out character card, or we'll do it through an app. Still trying to think of our options here, but we know that there's a big population of people who like to do theater of mind. There's a population of people who like to do virtual tabletop and grid combat, for example. We want to be able to accommodate all of those. So yeah, stay tuned. Let us know what you think of the system. And check out our Discord, because also our Discord is where you will find the forums for sharing your thoughts. But also we have a section we put out for character sharing. So you can create your character, again, using this kind of text-based template, which is taking all the information that we would use to create our character, putting it in like a very simple stat spread in text, and then you guys can try sharing and creating characters and getting feedback. So we love to see it. Thank you guys for watching. Do check us out again. Check out our other videos. We did ones recently for how to create a character step by step. So if this was a little all over the place for you guys, that one should be a little better, as well as links to everything in the description. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.